Respiration is defined as a metabolic process wherein the living cells of an organism obtains energy by taking in oxygen and liberating carbon dioxide from the oxidation of complex organic substances. In simple terms, respiration is the process by which a living being utilizes the food to get energy. Breaking down of glucose molecules using oxygen or without oxygen in cells to provide energy for various life processes is called respiration. Mitochondria is the core site of activities, and the energy released as a result is stored in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is the energy currency for most processes. ATP is stored in mitochondria and is released as per need. There are generally two categories of respiration. First is the breathing, that is the gaseous exchange in which there is intake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Second category includes cellular respiration. Here, food particles are broken down, which results in the release of energy. So, let's check the various steps by which glucose molecules are broken down. First step is the breaking down of glucose into pyruvate. This step happens in the cytoplasm. Glucose molecules are broken down into pyruvate. The glucose is composed of 6 carbon atoms, while pyruvate is composed of 3 carbon atoms. The fate of pyruvic acid. Molecules formed from further breaking down of pyruvate molecules depends on the type of respiration in the particular organism. Respiration is of two types, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is the type of respiration that happens in the presence of oxygen. The pyruvate is broken down to 3 carbon molecules in the presence of oxygen to give molecules of carbon dioxide. Energy is released and water molecules are also formed at the end of this process. In the case of anaerobic respiration, the respiration process takes place in the absence of oxygen. The pyruvic acid is either converted into ethanol. Ethanol, a 2-carbon compound, is usually formed in the case of anaerobic respiration in microbes like yeast or bacteria, and also carbon dioxide and energy are released. Lactic acid is formed in some microbes as well as in the muscles. Glucose gets converted to pyruvate plus energy. Pyruvate in mitochondria in the presence of oxygen gets converted to carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Pyruvate in yeast in the lack of oxygen gives ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. Pyruvate in muscles in the lack of oxygen gives lactic acid plus energy. When a person runs very fast, he may experience pain in the leg muscles. This happens because of aerobic respiration taking place in muscles. During running, the energy demand of muscles increases. This is compensated by anaerobic respiration and the lactic acid is formed in process. The deposition of lactic acid causes pain in the lung muscles. The pain subsides after taking rest for some time. For aerobic respiration, the organisms need a continuous supply of oxygen, and carbon dioxide produced during the process needs to be removed from the body. Different organisms use different methods for intake of oxygen and expulsion of carbon dioxide. Diffusion is the method utilized by unicellular and some simple organisms for this purpose. In plants, diffusion is utilized for the exchange of gases through stomata. While in the case of aquatic systems, gills are the respiratory organ for fishes. Fishes take in oxygen which is dissolved in the water through the gills. Since the availability of oxygen is less in the aquatic environments, the breathing rate of aquatic organisms is faster. Insects have system of trachea which is used for taking in oxygen. Terrestrial organisms takes up oxygen from the atmosphere by different organs. The speciality of these organs are that they have larger surface area and they will be in contact with the atmosphere. In complex organisms like human beings, they have well developed lungs for exchange of gases. Availability of oxygen is not a problem in the terrestrial environment. So, breathing rate is slower compared to fishes in the aquatic environments. Let's summarize the two types of respiration. In aerobic respiration, the breakdown of glucose takes place in the presence of oxygen to generate more energy. It occurs in the cytoplasm and mitochondria. It's a long process compared to anaerobic respiration. The energy level produced is high. The final product of aerobic respiration is carbon dioxide and water. Aerobic respiration after glycolysis occurs in mitochondria of eukaryotes and cytoplasm of prokaryotes. Anaerobic respiration is the breakdown of glucose in the absence of oxygen in order to generate energy. It occurs in cytoplasm only. It's a short process when compared to aerobic respiration. The energy level produced is less. The main final products are lactic acid in animal cell, while in plant cells we get carbon dioxide and ethanol. Anaerobic respiration occurs in human muscle cells, bacteria, yeast, etc. Let's study more about the human respiratory system and the energy transfer. Human respiratory system. The human respiratory system is composed of a pair of lungs. These are attached to a system of tubes which opens to the outside through a pair of nostrils. The major parts of the human respiratory system are nostrils. Two nostrils converge together to form a common nasal passage. The whole nasal cavity is lined by hairs and remains wet due to the secretion of mucus. The mucus and hairs help in filtering out the dust particles from the inhaled air. Pharynx. It is a tube-like structure which continues after the nasal passage. Larynx. This part comes after pharynx. Larynx is also known as the voice box. Trachea. It is composed of rings of cartilage. Cartilaginous rings prevent the collapse of trachea in the absence of air. Bronchi. The main passageway to lungs. There are a pair of bronchi that comes out from the trachea, with one bronchus going to each of the lungs. Alveoli. These are air sacs at the end of bronchioles. Alveolus is composed of a very thin membrane and it is the place where blood capillaries open. Blood capillaries. This is where oxygen mixes with blood and carbon dioxide exits from the blood. The exchange of gases in alveoli takes place due to the pressure differential. Let's study about the breathing mechanism. The breathing mechanism of the lung is controlled by the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. Diaphragm is a membrane which separates the thoracic chamber from the abdominal cavity. When you breathe in, the diaphragm moves downward towards the abdomen and the rib muscles pull the ribs upward and outward. This makes the chest cavity bigger and pulls air through the nose or mouth into the lungs. During exhalation, diaphragm moves upward and the chest walls relax, causing the chest cavity to get smaller and push out the air out of respiratory system through the nose or mouth. During respiration, lungs always keep certain volume of gas after expiration known as residual volume of air, which keeps the alveoli open all the time.